All right, welcome to another episode of Cowboys Overtime here on StarTelegram.com. I am Fort Worth Star Telegram columnist Mac Engel, and I am joined by Mr. Clarence E. Hill Jr. Clarence, quick question for you before we get into Cowboys topics. In our cabinet here is this cup. Can you see this?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay. So about 20 years ago, I was in Ireland with my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, Jennifer, and we bought these. They've never been used, ever. They're just decor. My wife's out of town. I'm like, you know what? I'm sick of all this crap that's in our house that we don't use. So I'm using this to hold coffee. It's technically for tea. I don't really drink tea. Do you have anything like that in your house that you just sort of sit there and you look at, like in your cabinets, or maybe when you're growing up with your mom and your dad? And
I'm single, okay?
Yeah, I know, and I realize
you're married. You have those trinkets, and you're only doing this because she's out of town. You're freaking bad doing what she's.
I don't know. You know,
doing what she's in town. Impress me.
I'm nearing 50, so my give a crap factor is going down. I'm like, okay, you want to be mad? Fine, I'm going to use this. But when you were growing up, did you guys have anything like that in your house? Like,
yeah, I'm sure we did. I mean, there are things that you have. The mom has the crystal, the china cabinet, everything else that you only bring out for special occasions, or when people in company comes over and stuff.
Did you
like
have
that.
a room like that, like a dining room or a special room that you only use? Like, that's one thing that drives me crazy, is that we have all this crap in this house, or an area in this house that we never use, but maybe once a year. Why don't you use it more often?
I don't know, but we're talking about two different worlds now. I grew up in a small town in Schulenburg, Texas. We didn't have a room we didn't use.
Oh, here's one from our producer. Candy says, my mom gave me her wedding china in college because she never used it.
Gave it to you for college? Wow. You can save it for your wedding.
Right. Last thing I wanted to share with you, one funny story from the weekend. Maybe you have that you can relate to this. So over the weekend, my daughter played in a soccer tournament. Thing lasted forever. It was 4 games in 4 days, and it rained a lot. So I'm standing out there getting poured on, and my daughter's team, 4 games, they scored 1 goal. Now here's the best part. The 1 goal they scored was against the team. You know how this club crap exists. Like, oh, they've never lost. They're ranked 3rd in the country and all this other junk. Right. They scored 1 goal and they tied a team that hadn't lost. Right. 1 goal in 4 games. Do you have any good kids horror stories from watching them in their youth sports days that you can relate to and help me through this?
I was the horror. I was the one screaming on the sideline. I was, they could hear dad.
Oh, did you really?
Huh?
Were you that parent?
I was coaching my kid. Okay.
No. Were you the coach, or were you coaching your kid? Big difference.
I was never the coach. I was coaching my kid. Okay.
You're that parent.
I was telling my daughter, she only listens to me. Okay. No.
I'm going to ask them about that the next time I see them.
I may have been told to be quiet a few times by the coach, but I know my kid needs me to motivate him. This was Channing and son. The funny thing about, number one, I was just realizing, I was talking to a friend of mine last couple of days. I am officially out of the kids sports business. I've been in the kids sports business for more than 20 years. Started with my daughter, started playing soccer at 3. And my youngest finally is done with gymnastics. And so I am officially out of the kids sports. It has run my life for the last 20 years with 2 kids.
That's amazing.
Saturdays, summers, all of that stuff. I'm officially out of the kids sports business. I remember when both were in soccer and had 2 soccer games the same day, or we were, trying to juggle practices and everything like that. Because I was one who had to take them, because I signed them up and I had to do all the stuff like that. And so,
I can relate to this.
It all runs together now. Yeah. And so, certainly there were moments, when my daughter was initially started soccer and she was just playing with the flowers, and then she became a very good soccer player. And then we started summer track, and you don't ever want to be out there on summer track in June, from 9 o'clock in the morning to midnight, because they got 50 heats of the 8-year-olds in the 100, then 50 heats of the 8-year-old or of the 9-year-olds in the 100. It is a beating. So, what do you?
I remember one
business
last summer. our daughter plays tennis, and she's pretty good. So they like a tournament, and I when you said this immediately, I'm like, oh, I remember. So she had a tournament last year. There's like 4 kids, and they played up in like Keller. The tournament was like in June on Friday at 5:30. It's on asphalt. There's no covering. There's no shade anywhere, and they just bake in probably 120-degree temperatures, and that's it. And I'm standing out there trying to find any shade to watch her. And I am not the parent who yells. I keep, unless she's really bad or I think she's mailing it in, then I'll say something. But I'm not the sports dad who says anything usually. All right, we've talked enough about ourselves. Let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys. The rookie mini camp began last week at the Star in Frisco, the day after the Country Music Awards. I had a chance to visit with some of the rookies. Deuce Vaughn's a really impressive young guy, says Luke Schoonmaker. A lot of those young guys are impressive. They're a little overwhelmed right now, but the big news, obviously, is the status of the head coach. Mike McCarthy underwent a back surgery. That's no joke, a back surgery, and he missed that mini camp. Clarence, a back surgery is no joke. And, any surgery is joke. And it's not a joke. Anytime a surgeon says it's a minor procedure, and I'm thinking to myself, brother, it's a minor procedure for you. It's a major procedure for me. Clarence, do you think this at all will affect what he wants to do this offseason because he might be laid up for a little while?
No, the good news is they put in all the, obviously he's taking over the offense and they spent the bulk of the time during March and February and April and early May, putting in offense and installing the offense, doing all of this stuff with Brian Schottenheimer. And so that's done, and if there was a time to miss, I guess the time is now after the draft, and you can do it during rookie mini camp when you're really not even doing anything, because the next day, they basically just had a walkthrough. They didn't really do any practice. They're just trying to acclimate the rookies. My issue is with the Cowboys and how they were cloak and dagger with the information.
Yep.
And didn't it surprise? They knew he was out.
For sure.
They didn't tell you Friday.
Yep. Nope.
They didn't tell anybody Saturday until Saturday morning when they had a TBA press conference and didn't have a press conference. We're going to give you the coaches, the assistant coaches, the coordinators, but they never said anything until at the last minute. Oh yeah, Mike McCarthy had surgery, so he's not going to be around. You knew that a week ago. You knew this was happening. And why if they say the surgery is not a big deal and it's he'll be back at some point in for the OTAs. But why are you making a big deal by being so cloak and dagger about it? It to me, it makes no sense. But in the grand scheme of things, he should be back, by OTA, certainly by minicamp, and certainly will be ready to go by training camp. He's had back problems, or has had back problems for some time, so it might as well get him, fixed, because they don't get better; they get worse.
Yep,
and
sure.
if you don't do anything to them, and being out there on your feet,
yep,
for mini camps and all of the stuff, you need to go and take care of that. So we did that. Good news, he's taking care of that. I just don't like how the Cowboys were cloak and dagger about it and kept it such a secret.
No, but it's consistent, right? Oh yeah, hey, by the way, our head coach. Yeah, he's not going to be here. Why? Oh, he had back surgery. When? Last what? We just totally forgot. No, you didn't. You just didn't want to do it.
It's stupid.
It was needless. You're right. Moving on. Our favorite defensive player of the year candidate, Micah Parsons, wants to bulk up so he can be a defensive end to rush the passer virtually every down. His defensive coordinator, Dan Quinn, says Micah Parsons is a rush linebacker. Okay, Clarence, tell me what's the difference between a rush linebacker and a defensive end?
It's semantics. And, it's funny because I was there when Micah told us unprompted that he was in Austin, number one. He was in Austin, wasn't at OTAs or wasn't at an off-season program. He's working out his bucket, adding weight. And we talked about because you're going to play more in. It's yes, because I'm going to play more in this year. And then we talked about, they were asking about what do you like about playing more in? He said, because I don't have to do all the other stuff. I can specialize and focus only on one position. Okay. and being an end, he did have some wear and tear last year.
Right.
The dirty little secret to last year was Micah played in 80% of the time. 80% of the snaps, he was at end. He was on the defense line. He was not a linebacker, okay? And so in compared to, it was about 50% of the time his rookie year. So he was a end. He was on the line, doing that last year. Why would it be less? It's going to be only more this year. Certainly the word rush linebacker, what's the difference? If you're on the end rushing the quarterback,
well,
the defensive man is not a difference.
No, but here's the difference, and we talked about it, and it might be semantics, but I do think it's important to Dan Quinn, is that if you're a rush end, your window is pretty narrow, right? If you're a linebacker, even if it's semantics, you've opened up the possibility that your radius is a little bit bigger in terms of coverage in space and maybe going downfield covering a linebacker if the matchup's warranted. A defensive end's not going to do that. And I think, and when I heard Dan Quinn say that, and even his semantics, look, Micah Parsons is going to get paid a lot. He's going to be one of the highest, he'll probably be the highest paid defensive player when his contract comes up. Good for him. But as a weapon, the thing that concerned me, and to hear Dan Quinn say this, confirmed to me, is that he wants to be able to use this guy, keep the door open to use this guy beyond just like a tank. Because when you say defensive end, Clarence, I see Tank Lawrence.
Yeah, no.
When you say linebacker, I see Lawrence Taylor, and a guy who's running around everywhere, killing everything.
I think that it's a little bit of both. I think that you're going to steal Michael rushing from the left side and the right side and everything. What he's not going to do is play middle linebacker, okay? Which he was his rookie year. He's going to be on the line, get down to the quarterback, rush linebacker. He's going to blitz from the middle. He's going to do that stuff. But he's basically a defensive lineman, however you want to call it. He's going to be work from both sides of the line and do some of those things. That's what he's there for. He makes his biggest impact getting after the quarterback. And that's how the Cowboys are going to use him. And again, the thing that's important here is that if you notice Micah last year, he had like 8 or 9 sacks first 8 games. He maybe had 2 or 3 sacks. The wear and tear on your body when you're playing on the line, get out the quarterback every down, which he never had to do in college, didn't do as much as rookie year. He needs to buck up to handle that position. And that's what he's talking about. I need to gain weight. I need to add muscle because of the wear and tear on your body playing rush linebacker, defensive end, on the line, dealing with 300-pound guys, play in and play out. And again, he did it 80% of the time last year.
No, I didn't know the number. You said that last week, and that number surprised me. I knew it was a lot. Obviously, I knew it was more than half. 80% really surprised me. Okay, we got more to talk about here on Cowboys Overtime. But first, a word from the good people at Window Nation.
Window Nation, the star of window replacement and proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys, can help you fill the house this season with savings. Buy 2 windows, get 2 free, and make no payments and pay no interest until 2025. Fill your house for a customized authentic Dallas Cowboys jersey while supplies last. You could even help fill the Cowboys house and win tickets to a game. Visit windownation.com/Cowboys now for details. Call 866-95-NATION. Window Nation, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, thank you very much, Window Nation. Candy, sorry about that. I wasn't sure if you were paying attention when I gave the cue to go to break to Window Nation, but you were. My bad. Okay. I don't know if anybody watching, Clarence, yourself, Candy, Cowboys need a place kicker. I can do it. Clarence, I'm sure you can.
I kicked in high school a little bit. I was a straight-on kicker, took my 2 steps, hit the straight-on, Right.
I don't think the NFL's had a straight-on kicker since Mark Mosley, who's the NFL MVP, by the way, back in '81, the strike season. The Cowboys have decided they hate Brett Maher's guts. They brought him in last season. He won the job, and he was fantastic. He settled any issue at a position that can drive NFL teams crazy because it's inherently unstable. If you find that guy, you find that guy. Cowboys haven't had that guy. They had him for a while and Dan Bailey, but then Dan got hurt. And now it's just been kind of a revolving door of guys. I don't necessarily think the Cowboys are being held hostage by this, but they don't have Justin Tucker. All right. They don't have Jason Hanchin. They don't have Adam Vinatieri and some of the other celebrity kickers who have played in the NFL. Justin Tucker's a weapon. You know that from his days at UT. Clarence, obviously Brett Maher lost his place with the franchise because he got the yips. He was missing extra points. It got into his head, and the Cowboys said, we can't take the risk. Okay, that's fine. Now they don't address it in the draft. As many close games that are played in the NFL, I still can't believe no NFL team places a premium on this position, given the fact that so many are decided by 3 points. The Ravens did, and they've got Justin Tucker. Clarence, what are they? I mean, you and I both know what they're going to do, but what are they going to do?
Oh, they're going to sign a veteran. At some point, they're just going to go and sign a veteran. And there's some veterans out there that that they're looking at and that are on the radar for the Cowboys. But at some point, they're going to sign a veteran. But they're not bringing back Brett Maher. Let's be honest about that. Brett Maher is not an option for them. Jerry Jones is off that train. He's not considering Brett Maher at all. But they're going to, you got Ryan Suckup. You got Mason Crosby, you got Robbie Gould. Those are the veterans that are out there that most likely the Cowboys will look at to sign before training camp or during training camp. Robbie Gould, a guy from the 49ers, perfect with the 49ers. They went younger at the position. He's certainly an option. Mason Crosby, a guy that I think Mike McCarthy had in Green Bay. They went younger. He's an option. And keep in mind, most of the kickers have kicked outdoors. They're older, but they've kicked outdoors their entire life in bad conditions. They will be great in the friendly confines of AT&T Stadium, where you don't have to kick outdoors. You don't have to worry about the wind. You don't have to worry about all the weather and all that stuff. For most of the time, you kick, and so I think that's the avenue the Cowboys are going. They just got to decide which one they're going to use or going to go after.
Clarence, as we've seen the NFL evolve, and you've seen it evolve, why do you think teams are just so adamant about treating this position as just sort of an afterthought, and they don't place a premium on it, even though the point margins and the differential would say, yeah, you might really want to find that guy? Or is it just inherently one of those positions it's impossible to really assess because a kicker is just such a squirrely position?
It's a squirrely position because, first of all, you can find one as an undrafted free agent. You can find one. It's a position just like a deep snapper. I mean, you can find a kicker. You remember when Tampa Bay, or who was it? I think it was Tampa Bay a few years ago, drafted a kicker high, and he was awful.
Yeah.
So you don't want to invest, a high draft pick in those positions because you can always find one. There are always veterans out there to get the job done. I think we all know it's important. It's important to your football team, and especially in these close games, and certainly I think that when the kicker is bad, it affects how you approach the game. It affects the decisions you make. It affects everything.
Think about the extra points now. I mean, that was historic what Brett Maher went through last season, at the end of the season, and then into the playoffs. I mean, it was unbelievable. And I know, NFL teams the NFL making a decision to move the extra point back because the previous distance was virtually statistically automatic. There was no drama. There was no suspense or intrigue in a play, which is what you want. You want a play to matter. And they have brought the extra point now into play. You're like, well, he might miss it. And I hear what you're saying about that, Clarence, about, well, why do it? Why spend a draft pick on a position that you can find them off the street? You can make that same logic about tons of positions. You can. Maybe we found this guy off the street. We found Tony Romo off the streat. Look what he did.
Yeah, but those, again, by and large, that's not how you're going to find your quarterback. You're going to find your franchise quarterback off the street. You have to invest in those positions. They mean so much. The same is not necessarily true because the investment dollars wise, all this stuff is not the same with a kicker. I mean, at the end of the day, once a kicker starts getting, which is why a lot of these teams are moving on for their kickers, going with young guys, because they're not going to spend X amount of salary cap dollars on a kicker.
Right. All right, we've spent way too much time talking about a kicker.
The damn kicker.
All right, last topic here on Cowboys Overtime. Actually, I have one more, but before that, we got a champion. That's right. The XFL title went to the Arlington Renegades. Coach Bob Stoops and quarterback Luis Perez led a 4-6 Renegades team through the gauntlet of the XFL playoffs, including a win against the prohibitive favorite, the Houston Roughnecks, coached by Wade Phillips. The guy's always blowing it in the playoffs. Why didn't I write that?
Really?
I can't believe I missed that. So the XFL championship belongs to a team that plays in Arlington, Texas. The Dallas Stars have made the Western Conference Finals. Everybody in this town's winning championships. Why are we building sports stadiums in Arlington? Because the Rangers can't win championships there. And we sure as hell know the Cowboys can't win championships. Clarence, is this a Cowboys problem? Because everybody's doing well. And the Rangers have been to the World Series. They blew it in Game 6. But we know now definitively it's not Arlington. The Renegades proved it. It's the Cowboys.
It's definitely the Cowboys, and it's not DFW. I mean,
it's not.
Again, we go back to 2000, the year 2000. The Rangers have been to 2 conference championships and a Super Bowl. The Mavericks have been
wait. No, you said the Rangers.
World Series, excuse me.
Okay.
The Rangers have been to 4 conference championships, 2 NBA finals, and they got a championship.
Dude, what are you on? The Mavericks did it. Okay,
God, the Mavericks. Excuse me.
Hey, it's
I'm sorry. To me too. I said, God dog it. The Mavericks have been to 4 conference championships and 2 NBA finals. They won one.
Okay.
The Stars have been to 4 conference championships. How many titles? 1.
They won. Well, they won it in '99, but they went in 2000.
They went in 2000.
Your point's dead on.
The Cowboys have 0 during that time span.
But my favorite is the Arlington Renegades walk into the XFL and they own it, right? With a losing record.
Okay, I'm going to say, do you know what their regular season record was? Again,
4-6.
They can win in the playoffs. They didn't win. They didn't do one regular season. And you're trying to throw Wade under the bus. The prohibitive favorite was the Washington team that they beat the championship.
The DC Defenders.
10-1 in the regular season.
They went 9-1 in the regular season. Then they won their playoff game. They were 8-point favorites in San Antonio against the Renegades. And then Bob Stoops did
Big game, Bob. Big game, Bob.
Tell you what, he knows how to win championships in San Antonio. So the Renegades win it. All right, I do have one more topic to bring up, and this is off script, but you've talked about this on Twitter, and I think this is worthy of a discussion. So in the NBA, obviously the big story is the conference finals. The NBA lottery was last night. Mavericks, of course, didn't win it. They
tanked for 10.
They tanked for 10. They sold their soul, and they paid a $750,000 fine to draft 10th. That's great. Meanwhile, the San Antonio Spurs, the league's rigged. The Spurs have won the lottery again because the league wants generational 7-footers to go to San Antonio.
Really, the league wants.
Yes,
not New York.
They all want to go to San Antonio. They're trying to build it because they're going to move the team to Austin. That's the next big one. Okay, and then the other story in the NBA is the situation following Memphis Grizzlies guard Ja Morant, who recently, for the second time in the last few months, was caught. I don't have that caught. Was seen on social media flashing a gun. Now, I normally wouldn't have brought this up, but you got into a debate with readers, Twitter followers, and other people have brought it up. A longtime Memphis columnist, Jeff Calkins, brought it up, and it's completely valid. Ja Morant was suspended the first time for flashing a gun. And he came back and he said the right things, and the Grizzlies were a disappointment in the first round. They lost to the Lakers, who clearly look healthy and right with ball. And now Ja Morant says all the right things. And everything I've heard about this young man is that he's a really good kid. He's not a kid, he's a young man, but he's a really good guy. Now, again, over the weekend, he's caught in a similar situation where he's flashing a gun on social media. Now the Grizzlies and the NBA have basically said to Ja, go away, you're suspended, we'll deal with you later. Ja comes out and issues a statement, says, I've learned from it, I'll be better. I know my words don't mean very much right now. Again, I want to say this. Everything I've heard about this guy, and I've heard a lot because former TCU guard Desmond Bain is a teammate of his, so I would hear this stuff sort of secondhand. But everything. Now this guy gets suspended for something that a lot of our elected officials, Congress people, have done, which is take pictures of themselves holding guns. We clearly have a numbness about normalizing just holding advanced firearms anywhere. We do. and this is not a gun debate, but this is a double standard debate. Why is John Morant being suspended and penalized for flashing a gun when a congressman, when a representative from Congress takes a picture of themselves holding an assault rifle with his family and they're armed too, and it's fine. No one really does anything. There is a double standard about this.
It's apples and oranges, and we're trying to make it a double standard. Now, if John Morant was at a gun range exhibiting his rights to bear arms, no one would say anything. Okay.
So what's wrong with it? To me,
let me finish now.
Okay.
If he was at a gun range, just showing a gun, exhibiting right to bear arms, doing whatever, no one would say anything. He's in a car trying to portray a different lifestyle. It is too.
What lifestyle is that?
Gangster. He's trying to portray a gangster lifestyle. Okay. And secondly, it's several incidents with John. It's like 6 or 7 incidents going back to a fight in the park with a kid. It wasn't just the 2 incidents that you were talking about on social media.
No, you're right.
Incidents of him trying to be something that and display bad boy behavior. Secondly, if John Morant was an independent citizen, he can do what he wants. He works for the NBA. He was giving distinct marching orders by the NBA after the first incident. Don't do this again. He said, I'm not going to do this again. I'm going to be better decision maker. He goes and does it again. It is not the same. He worked with somebody. He has sponsors. This is different than these politicians who have a base who's okay with what they do. His employer said, don't do it. He also cost himself millions of dollars. He's already cost himself millions of dollars on a max deal. And again, and what people understand, when people are exacerbated by John Morant, it's really we're exacerbated for John Morant because we understand what he's doing. He's hurting himself. I'm frustrated that you're doing this to yourself. It's not a political thing. It's not something. It's not about gun advocacy. It's about you're a young kid. I don't want you to mess up your life. I don't want you to mess up this opportunity for yourself and your family. That's what's frustrating. That's what people are upset about it and exacerbated about it, that what you're doing to yourself, your family, your future, your career, and the impression it has on other kids. It's apples and
I know you're right.
To these politicians.
I know you're right. But this is what bothers me about it. And I think everything you said is right. I can't really take exception to any of it. My problem is, well, wait a minute. If John Morant was with 5 buddies and they take a Christmas card photograph and everybody's holding the gun and they're all dressed like people would associate with stereotypical gang culture, outfits. And that's not even fair, but let's just say they are. And you know what that attire is, but nobody gets hurt and nothing happens, right? Nothing happens. Does he get suspended?
Probably not. Again,
you and I both know there's a double standard here. And the double standard is,
first of all, I mean, you got to understand, the first time you had a gun in the club, it's illegal to have a gun in the club.
It was, look, Clarence, both of them are stupid.
It's stupidity. It depends on your, the NBA has a rule on conduct. NBA is the one who's making these decisions. The Memphis Grizzlies is the one who makes decisions. These things were outlined. These things were talked about.
No, he knew better.
He had marching orders after the first incident. I mean, so to sit up here and create these hypothetical situations, how does that help us? How does that move John Morant forward?
None of it does. And the thing that frustrates me is he knew better. Okay, so you can sit right off the first one and say, young man, you can't do this. Yeah, man, you're right. And the thing that really disappoints me is that his friends, they knew better too. And they didn't care. And that happens. That happens a lot. And that is not a white thing, a black thing. That's a people thing. And it's like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you putting this person in that position? And there's a million situations.
I'm not blaming the friends because he knew the friends were on IG Live.
Somebody should say, turn off the damn phone.
Or he should not be flashing guns.
Okay, we could start with that.
He's the one who flashed them on the IG.
No, he
Live.
did. And my bigger issue is this, and this is what really bothers me as I get older. This isn't about gun rights or any of that other crap. I'm not going to get into that. This is about normalizing casual, indifferent, glib behaviors around a firearm.
Right.
A firearm should be respected. A firearm needs
Right.
training.
And what if the gun goes off in the car?
Amen. I mean, we see it all the
like
time.
Plaxico Burress took a gun into
Yes.
a club years ago and shot himself in the leg. I
Yep.
mean, you don't play with gun. I mean, just
No,
none of
that's
the
it. There you
about
said it.
what Jai is doing is good. And you talk about those other photos, and I've had people talk about it. I've seen Carver have kids in
Yep.
Christmas card photos. Again, they're not playing with the gun though. Okay, they have a point. It's certainly a political thing, but they're not out there just willy-nilly showing guns. It could go off.
No, and you're right. There's a different
behavior that we're talking about.
No, and it's not up, but there is a discussion to be had about just there are too many people out there. And again, this is not a black-white thing. This is an America thing. There are too many people out there who are just juggling guns, and they're too casual about it. This is not a joke. You wouldn't do that with a knife. That's the killer. You would not hold a knife and just do this. You wouldn't. You're like, oh, dude, be careful. You might cut yourself. A gun? That could end your life. And you're like, yeah, okay, here we're doing this.
Someone else's life next to you, and there's too many.
And there's somebody else's life next to you. All right, this is a good debate. Claire, it's been fun talking to you. For all of your Dallas Cowboys coverage needs, not more, all. Be sure to follow us on StarTelegram.com. Dallas Stars playoff coverage as well. They're in the conference finals. That starts Friday night. Thank you, Window Nation, for all of the good people here who make this possible. Basically, it's Candy Bolden. See you next time here on Cowboys Overtime.